Welcome to the Room at the Table podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Milo. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Room at the Table. I'm your host, Kimberly Milo. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast and for joining and following and liking, subscribing. That makes a huge difference when you go ahead and give reviews and you like and subscribe, because then people can actually find the podcast and they're able to learn about who Christ is, really the nitty gritty of what it looks like to be a follower, no matter your age, no matter your background. So thank you for joining us. Today, we're actually talking to some of our teenagers, our youth who are Christian, and they're going to be sharing like what it's really like to be a teenager in high school, getting ready for either college or work. They're all seniors and they go to different schools, but we're going to be talking about all the hard things that our teens, especially in American culture, go through, like dating, the pressure of academics, the pressure of going to college, social media, friendships, all kinds of things as it relates to their faith and their identity. So welcome to my three teen seniors. All of these girls are from RTwelve, which is based off of Romans 12. It's a mother-daughter service organization here in Ladera Ranch. So thank you to Ariana, Drew, and Sophia. Hi, girls.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having us on.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, so what we're going to do is dive in. I'm going to have each of you just say your full name and what high school you go to, how old you are, and we'll just go around and make sure everyone understands, just where you guys go to school, all that good stuff. Okay, so Ariana, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm Ariana Price, and I go to San Juan Hills. As Kimberly said, I'm a senior, and I'm 17 years old.
Great. Okay, Drew.
Yeah, I'm Drew Brash. I also go to San Juan Hills High School, and I recently turned 18.
Great. Happy birthday. Okay, Sophia.
Hi, I'm Sophia Rigel. I'm 17 right now, and I go to J. Sarah Catholic High School. It's a small private school in our area.
Great. Thank you, girls, for being here. I chose these three gals because they actually were a panel of senior RTwelve students who went and spoke to our freshman class in RTwelve recently at one of the grade level meetings. And they spoke all about high school, what to expect. So the freshman girls who are getting ready or already in high school, but getting ready to really dive into everything that high school entails. These senior girls went and just answered questions about, what they wish they had known when they were freshmen starting high school, and information on friends and boys and pressures and time management. And also the gift of RTwelve, like doing this organization with their mom and, how to make it worthwhile for them. So that's how the three of you guys got here. So tell me, as we get started, tell me about your background in faith. Like, were all of you guys born into the faith, or did you guys kind of come in later? So, and we don't have to go in any certain order.
I can start.
Okay, great.
I'm really grateful to have been raised in the church. I really think I gained my faith from my parents. Not only I've been kind of influenced through their faith in directly through programs like RTwelve or just going to church with them, but I really think the way that they've parented me has influenced my faith. Like, they've always had so much patience for me and always so much compassion. They've always taught me to be discerning and to have integrity. And I really think those qualities that they've really pushed me to have has really pushed me to get to know Jesus even more, which has been awesome.
Love that. Really cool. Thank you, Drew. Okay, Sophia or Ariana, how about you guys? What's been your experience growing up with faith?
I have also always grown up in the faith. I was raised in a Christian household. I grew up Orthodox Christian, actually. And then around first or second grade, we started going to a non-denominational Christian church. So I've always been around the faith in different forms. I was raised by really godly parents, so that was really cool to kind of grow up and see an example of what a godly woman looks like, what a godly marriage looks like. And then through high school, I've gotten involved with our youth group at church, and then definitely RTwelve has been a big outlet for me to be surrounded by like-minded girls that are also Christians going through the same things. I think it's really helped cultivate my faith.
Awesome. Love that. And how about you, Ariana?
Yeah, similar to Drew and Sophia, I've also been raised in faith. I'm Catholic, and so I was baptized as a baby. My sister was baptized as a baby. We gone to church almost every Sunday. So definitely very faith forward in our household. And as I've grown up, I feel like I've taken more of a role like individually to go and search for my faith. So I'm a servant leader at our church, and then doing RTwelve and getting to meet all of these girls and having really deep faith-centered relationships has been something that's been incredibly important, but it definitely did start in my family.
Got it. Awesome. I saw you girls nodding your head. So do you feel like as you're getting older, this is a common time of life where there are a lot of questions about faith? And as you girls kind of launch after this year of high school and you go into the broader world, whether that's work or college, you'll be exposed to a lot more people, a lot more different beliefs, philosophies, faiths. But I see you guys nodding your head saying that you feel like now it's kind of like you're learning on your own. Is that why you guys were nodding your heads? Like it's kind of becoming your own?
Yeah, for sure. I think as I've gotten older, I've learned how to take my faith into action more, whether it's through conversations with people or service opportunities. I feel like, especially for me, I don't know, I believe also for Drew and Ariana, is growing up with RTwelve through high school. It's giving us opportunities to share our faith and learn what it means to have our faith as our own.
Makes sense. Drew?
Sorry. I agree. I'm really grateful for RTwelve, where I'm able to meet so many girls in the same position as me. But I think my parents really did a great job of obviously introducing faith to me, but also letting me explore on my own. Because I think everyone's questions, I think everyone's relationship is so specific. It really deserves to be kind of explored on your own. You can't really give that to someone else. But I agree. I think RTwelve has helped me so much.
Yeah. I really agree with that. You can't as parents, just so you know, I think a lot of, and I know all your moms, we can't force faith. We don't want to force faith because we want you guys to have a relationship with Christ on your own. And what that, the desire for that, what that feels like as your own human being, especially as you guys are becoming young women, we can only model like what it's been for us. Some of us have been in our whole lives and some not. So we're still learning. You're never done learning with faith and just about life in general. So I know that your moms are very mindful about wanting your faith to feel real for you. And it might look a little different than hers. And that's okay. They want Jesus to be at the center, but that might play itself out in different ways with how involved you are, not involved, who you choose to be friends with and married to one day. So that's a real fine line because adults don't want to like force it down your neck, or hopefully don't want to, because we want you to like choose it kind of for yourselves. So it's a little bit of a dance for parents, just so you guys know from our end of things. Okay, so let's dive into some of the high school topics that you guys deal with. We recently did a survey in RTwelve. So you tell me, one of the things that I was super interested to learn in the survey is we asked all the girls in the 4 different grade levels, what would they like to see included from our RTwelve speakers, and also during discussion time with your student mentors. You all have different, you have the same student mentor because you're all seniors, but every one of our grade levels has a different student mentor. But every class said that friendship was like the number one topic in high school that girls especially are really managing and care about. And of course, I remember that. My friends were everything to me. So can you talk a little bit about what friendship means to you? And especially with your faith, how does that play out with who you're close to, how you manage different groups of friends, gossip, all those kinds of things? It's a broad topic, but what's on your heart when it comes to friends in high school?
I think friendship is such like an important thing in high school. Like it gives you a sense of community, and with all your activities, there's different sectors of friend. And I feel like sometimes it's really hard to navigate all of that because there are a lot of sometimes issues or drama that'll come up, especially in girlfriend groups. And so like having an outlet, like that's why what I said with RTwelve is having those girls that have similar values and care a lot about their faith has been really helpful, and it's able to kind of like flush out some of those problems and dramas a little bit easier. But other times it's like having to use your faith to realize that, hey, not everyone may have these values instilled in them, and kind of working out a situation of like, how can I find a solution to this without like compromising my values or trying to force my values on them. So I think it's a very like tricky situation, but at the end of the day, like friendships are so necessary and such like a pivotal moment as like a high school girl.
For sure. For sure. I saw you girls agreeing. Drew, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think obviously we touched on this at the freshman meeting, and one of the girls asked us kind of how we've navigated, I guess, friendship troubles in our own life. And one of the things I told her, which I really didn't mean to scare her, but I just told her friendship issues for girls is kind of par for the course. It's kind of typical. And like I said, I didn't mean to scare her, but I really wish I had someone tell me that, Drew, you're going to say things or do things you're going to regret, and other people are going to do the same, say things or do things they regret to you and hurt you. And truthfully, I don't have the answer for every situation, navigating that perfectly, but I do know Jesus loves when we just try our best to align our hearts the way he would want us to. And sometimes it's really confusing and really difficult. And yeah, I'll be the first to admit it's hard, but I think that's what he just really wants us to see, is just trying to align our hearts and our actions.
Really good. So true. And not easy to do, even for adults. We always have to check ourselves too. Sophia, what were you going to add to that, honey?
I think there's so much value in having godly friends, which is definitely something I learned last year. I kind of went through, I'd call it weeding or like kind of pruning my friends in a sense of realizing which ones are really there to lift me up or others that maybe were not the best. And I think having godly friends to guide me through that was very important. I remember the start of freshman year, I had this really big friend group. And I remember my mom saying like, oh, it'd be kind of a miracle if you guys were all together at the end of sophomore or by the end of senior year. And I was like, what? No, you're crazy. We're going to make it. And then realizing that there was so much truth to that is friendship struggles are inevitable through high school. High school is all about finding who you are and your identity. And I feel like popular culture kind of plays into that of people wanting the high school experience, but then also trying to navigate that as a Christian. And kind of like Drew said, friendship struggles, they're inevitable. They're going to happen. But I think having godly friends to align you through it and help you through it. My best friend is a Christian and she helped me go through my friend struggles. And I think knowing that you'll have friends that will pray for you and care about you and know that they'll be there by your side is really helpful to have that group of girls.
That is so cool. Do you guys all feel like you're looking for that? Like, are you actively seeking that out, or you weren't at first and now you are as you're an older high schooler?
I think at first
Anyone?
it wasn't like I did care a lot about my faith, but it wasn't kind of something like, oh, I want this in my friends as well. Like it just didn't really factor to me. But I think now it's kind of almost perfect in the way that a lot of my closest friends are ones that do follow faith, or if they haven't, they've like turned to follow faith. And that's just been really like amazing to watch. So like even if I wasn't like actively seeking it out, I feel like it was part of God's plan that he was like, hey, I'm going to put you with people that will help strengthen you and help remind you that like, hey, you can always come back to me. And so that's been like a good constant reminder and keeping me grounded in my faith.
Yeah, because we need each other, right? We need other believers to help us. Our friends help us. Drew, what were you going to say?
I mean, yeah, I think things are a little bit different at a public school. I think it's difficult to find Christian friends, but in my life, I think some of the people who give me, I think, the best advice in my life, and the people I want to mirror the most, do have a really strong faith, and it is really cool. It's almost like a unicorn when you find those people and you're just like, oh, I just want to latch onto you. I just want to mimic you. And it is cool to have those people in my life.
That is so true and so wise. I've noticed the older I'm getting, I'm drawn to women who share my faith values, because the way we talk about the world or what we see in the world, even if we don't agree with politics, that's not really the issue. It's that we see things out of a bigger perspective, and also kind of wanting to follow Jesus's and God's direction in the Bible. So I wasn't thinking like that when I was your age. So you guys are really ahead of the game, because it gives you like a standard. It gives you something to work towards and to draw from. Like you said, the girls who share your faith, you kind of want to be closer to them when you're struggling with something, because you know that their view is going to help you go deeper and not just gossip or be mean or say, whatever your mood is and you're angry at the moment or you're irritated. They'll help you through that and have a deeper, like healthier perspective. At least that's how I look at it. And I wish I had had more of that when I was your age. So I feel like you girls are like way ahead of the game. Anything else you want to add about friendships? I just feel like it's really not easy to maneuver through. Friends can change depending on the school you're at, how big the schools are, or if you want to change friends and the school's too small, everybody's watching you do it. So how have you maneuvered? And then we'll move to another topic, but how have you maneuvered maybe changing groups a little bit? Has that been an issue for you in high school?
I think for me is starting with a big friend group and then kind of thinning it down. At a small school, I have around, I think, like 1,300 kids at J. Sarah, whereas public schools are even double, maybe even triple our school. I think it was a little hard as our senior class is 300, which in retrospect sounds kind of big, but compared to public schools, it's a little small. Of everyone, especially by junior year and senior year, has their set groups. So I think it was a little difficult trying to maneuver and find a new group. But ultimately, I think it led me to draw towards my Christian friends, and especially in RTwelve, is knowing that there are girls that you can lean on and count on within RTwelve. I think that was very beneficial, as I would be not having the best week, and then I'd go to an RTwelve meeting and I have all these Christian girls like, oh, how can I pray for you? How was your week? How are you doing? Let's do a Bible study together. Let's catch up, to also remind me that like I'm not alone. And even though I may struggle with friends here, I have an outside group, which I think is really important, of having not just one group of friends, but having little people everywhere, to know that there's always someone in your corner and always someone counting on you.
Yeah, that's great. I think you get better at it the older you get too. As freshmen, I think it's harder. And, and then you get used to, things shift. Did you girls want to add anything, Ariana and Drew?
Yeah, I think it is kind of like we've said a little bit. It is inevitable for things to change a little bit. That's just how relationships go. They ebb and they flow. And something I also said at the freshman meeting to the girls was, sometimes things are a little bit tricky when they feel in between or just really complicated or just out of your control. And especially just in high school, I remember I felt like it was the end of the world, and it's just not.
Right.
But it just, hindsight vision is 2020, and it's, in the moment, things can feel a lot heavier, but just understanding that there is always an after, and there's so much greater than that specific moment.
And I think
You guys have the wisdom of seniors. Seniors know that, right? You've seen, I changed. Things changed. Go ahead, Ariana.
also, like with what Sophia was saying, is I feel like as you're older, with everything you're involved in, there are like different groups that you can also like turn to when maybe one group is having a tough time. And I feel like that's really helpful, to be able to go and get a fresh perspective from other people that maybe aren't involved in the issue. And it allows you to like see things more like clearly, and then like understanding where people are coming from. And like, it's hard not to be clouded by your own judgment and want to be like angry or upset at people, but really being able to like take yourself out of the situation and look at things is something that's been difficult to learn through high school. But I feel like it's made things so much easier when I have done that in scenarios.
Yeah, so true. We need different groups of friends, and hopefully if they all have faith, they can help you look at something from a different perspective, but still keep your faith at the center of it. So super much, you guys are very mature. Like, I think if we were having this conversation as freshmen or even sophomore or juniors, it would be different. So it's neat to kind of see you girls are really ready to go to the next step of applying to colleges or working. Are you guys going to be working or college? What are your next steps as right now is kind of the time for all of that, for planning ahead?
I am gonna go to a 4-year university. I want to study nursing. I don't know exactly where yet. I'm still kind of in the application season. But definitely going to a 4-year university, maybe moving somewhere new, checking out a new place. But nursing is definitely the end goal for me.
Got it. Oh, you know already. That's so cool. How about you, Ariana? Drew, do you guys know what you're doing yet?
Yeah, I am applying to a lot of schools right now. The goal is to go to a 4-year university. A lot of schools I am going in undecided, but for some schools I'm going for marketing, and other schools I'm going for urban planning. So we'll see what the future has.
That's great. I love it. You can maybe have 2 paths that you are going to explore. Super cool. How about you, Ariana?
I also want to go to a 4-year. Right now, hopefully, I applying to a lot of schools in California, so I'd like to stay, which would be pretty awesome. But I'm applying for finance and then potentially double majoring in finance and marketing.
Wow. Good for you. It's really cool. You girls all kind of know what you want to do. Like that's seems to be not the norm, where a lot of kids know where they maybe want to go to school, but they're not exactly sure. So it's kind of nice when you have an idea. But then if it changes, that's okay too. So just keep that in mind. Like you don't have to know, but it's actually a bonus if you do. Okay, so moving on from the friendship topic, let's talk about boys. Boys is obviously a huge thing in the teen years, and nobody gets away from that. Like, as you know, hormones and the whole 9 yards. And this is where you guys are learning, like, what do I like? What do I not like? What do I want? What do I not want? And they're going through it too. So how have you managed dating and getting to know boys, whether it's friends or, boyfriend dating, and holding to your faith? Because to me, it feels like super confusing to look back in those years and think, gosh, I wish I would have, just had my faith a little bit more in the center of it all. How do you guys manage it? It's a big topic.
I mean, I can start. I think a big part of my faith in kind of dating, or just kind of that kind of spirit, has been, I think, kind of removing the worldly lens of it all. I think a lot of people in our age group place a lot of their worth in, I don't know, who they're dating, like how many boyfriends they've had, or this, that, and the other. And I think it's really freeing to not feel that way. And I think it's when you kind of remove all those pressures, you find a lot of peace. And I think that's my biggest advice. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is really got to go at your own pace, and I don't know, take a look around for yourself. You're not on anyone else's clock but your own.
Yeah, really good. To not be so competitive and in a rush because you see everybody around you dating and all of that. Ariana, you're nodding your head. How about you,
Yeah,
hun?
I think good things take time. I've been really fortunate that having friends and dating mostly have all been Christian. So that's been really amazing. Like the friends I'm friends with now literally host a Bible study every Thursday. So it's been really awesome that I haven't had to worry too much about like clashing with faith there. But otherwise, I agree with Drew. Like everyone has their own time, their own pace. Like there's no need to compare yourself to like, oh, this girl maybe has a date to homecoming. Why I should get a date to homecoming? Why don't I have one? I need to start working on that. Like everything will work out in the end, and you never know what's set for you in the future. So there's no need to like rush and like settle for something less now.
So smart. So smart. How about you, Sophia? I know you have a boyfriend because you went on the double date.
Yes. I do. I think we've been dating for a little over 2 months, and I think this has been a very good experience because he is a Christian, and that's something I really prioritized. I had a small boyfriend last year, and he was not a Christian, and I think that was kind of eye-opening to me, especially with my relationship now, is dating someone who's not a Christian. There are definitely a lot of, I wouldn't say disagreements, but a little challenges of faith is such a big part of my life, and it's how I've built my life. It's in the activities I do with youth group and church and the people I surround myself with. And I think dating a non-Christian for that time kind of opened my eyes as oh, well, these things are important to me, but they're not as important to you, or we don't see eye to eye on certain things. Whereas now with my current boyfriend, it's been so much different because we go to church together. We went to a Bible study one week, and we have a total different view on issues, and we'll see things eye to eye. I remember the day he asked me, we were sitting at dinner, and we kind of had a whole conversation about faith. Is like, this is really important to me. And it's kind of how I've built my life. Like, I would love for us to go to church together. And I think prioritizing that has honestly been amazing. We'll go in the mornings and then have great discussions on the way home. And it kind of changed our relationship, is to not just know each other on a surface level, but on a deeper level as well. And just have that connection, knowing that we both believe in the same things. And it also helps is with the culture. It's like, no, I don't do these things because I'm a Christian. And it's also someone to hold me accountable for my faith of, oh, hey, I heard you were gossiping. That's not what we should be doing. Let's try to change our conversations of having an accountability partner, and knowing that we're both on the same page about worldly things and partying and like culture. Know that I have someone to keep me accountable, and we're both on a similar track, and we have a similar mindset that we're not going to go off and fall into sin, I think has been really influential for our relationship.
Wow. That is fantastic. It's really cool you have the comparison, you know, that, and not
For
that every
sure.
person who's not a Christian would maybe not, you might find people that you get along great with and you still have a lot in common with. But it's interesting that you had the experience last year. So you could kind of put them together and say, oh, this one just feels more like me. We have more in common and we can go deeper. It's neat. You, at a young age, you had that comparison. I don't think a lot of, well, I don't want to generalize, but I feel, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that even a lot of girls who think that they're Christian maybe aren't really like looking for that in someone, because it's just so fun to date and to meet different people and to be liked by a guy. So I think it's really cool that you guys are kind of aware of that. Like, that was different because I wasn't raised a Christian when I was a teen, and I wish I had been. I think it would have made my choices very different. So do you feel like it's really impacting like the way you look at relationships then? I know you, Sophia, it is because you're having direct experience,
100%.
but like Drew and you and Ariana, do you guys feel like for sure that's something you want to explore? A Christian, dating someone who's a Christian?
I think the things that I'm looking for in a guy are directly in lines with faith, even if, because I am obviously looking for a guy with a faith, but even just mannerisms like, I don't know, respect, or just maybe even opening the doors, or just the way that he cares towards women or speaks about women. I think those all line up as well of a guy with a faith. And so, yes, that is something I'm looking for. And I think that's a huge factor. And I think faith is one aspect, but I think it bleeds into a lot of other aspects, kind of like Sophia was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being a gentleman, like someone who's a gentleman and is going to court you and treat you with respect and kindness. How about you, Ariana?
Yeah, I agree with Drew. Like, even if it's not necessarily like the faith part itself, faith does, like Drew said, bleed into a lot of your actions, and it shows in your values. So I think it's something that's really important to look for me when dating, is because I want them, like you said, to be a gentleman. I want to make sure that when I'm with them, I feel like I can have these deep conversations and that we're able to talk about things like beyond ourselves and go further than that.
Yeah, awesome. And it's not to say that you might not meet somebody who's open to knowing Jesus. Like, you might find somebody who's a really good person and he doesn't know him. Like, and maybe he wants to know, and then you can still have that kind of faith in your relationship, but it gives you something to kind of aim for and shoot for. So it's really neat to see how at your age, you girls are already thinking like that. It'd be fun to come back a year or two once you girls are in college and be like, okay, like, you've had such different worldly experiences, and kind of compare the two together. So let's move on to social. Well, actually, no, I want to touch base on something. So I know that with boys in high school, I mean, it's romance, it's how kind are they, they're going to dances, and there's a lot of like intimacy stuff that's like different when you're a Christian. And is that hard to navigate? And what I mean by that is, like, you're probably hearing a lot of conversations about how what people are doing romantically and how far people are going. That's normal. That's human concept, right? To talk about this and you're learning. But is that hard for you guys to like hear the world and even on social media to see how like everything's about sex and everything's about, what you're doing with your boyfriend or even people that are living together, they're not even engaged, but living together. Like there's such a continuum of that. And in high school, is that a little tricky to like kind of make sense of it because social media tells you everything's okay, like everything's fine. Our culture is like, do what your heart says, How do you guys feel about all that stuff?
I would say it is tricky. I think you're being told all these things from different directions. I do think is where the importance of having a Christian relationship or just a faith-centered relationship really plays into it, is your views on that. I think it has really shaped how I date and how we both have the same expectations because we know, okay, this is biblical sin. This is not what we should be doing. These are adulterous actions. And I think it just helps us to be on the same page of no, okay, these people may be doing it. They don't have a faith-centered relationship, but because I have a faith-centered relationship, it's really important for me to abstain from it and having the similar boundaries where it doesn't feel like I'm alone and, hey, I don't want to do this because I'm a Christian. I think having those same ideas makes it a little easier so you don't feel like you're isolated or so outspoken when you're like, no, this isn't for me.
Perfectly said. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Do you girls have anything to add to that, Drew and Ariana?
Yeah, I think Sophia summed it up really well. I think I've been really fortunate in my dating experiences, but I think that does really set apart guys with faith and guys without a faith, and really leading you to a place you want to go and leading you to a place you don't want to go.
I think having those thoughts and knowing ahead of time, like, okay, because it's normal. You're with someone you care about, or you're curious, but like knowing, okay, what do I really want? Like, how do I want to feel after this relationship or after this experience with this person that I care about? Like, you have to know what you want for yourself, what your faith is telling you. But I like what you said, Sophia, like you must have a lot of voices coming at you. You've got your parents, you've got your church, you've got social media, you've got your friends who maybe aren't Christian. Like it's super overwhelming. I would think to be your age, we didn't have as many forces because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have social media. So like we had magazines and TV and MTV and that's what we had. So I'm like totally dating myself as a dinosaur here, but that was hard enough. So I can only imagine you guys have everything on your phone, like TikTok, Instagram, like everything's right there. Snap. You constantly see what everybody your age is doing, whether they live near you or they live across the country. So you're so wise to try to like weed out all those different voices and stick to what you feel is best for you and your faith. Ariana, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I think definitely social media is very powerful, and there are so many voices within social media, which can be like distracting, like Sophia said, like so many things coming at you at once. But then again, there also are like people or like, I guess, creators that you could follow that kind of set a good example of a faith-based relationship, specifically in dating. And I feel like also seeing that example against all the other voices is really powerful. And it's something that like, it's literally like we are set apart and you can tell. Like, so I feel like seeing that is something that's very validating. Like, okay, yes, someone else of faith is doing this. So like, I don't have to feel like I'm alone and all these voices coming at me that I'm doing something wrong and I should be doing this, when it's like we are called to be set apart. So like what Sophia said, we need to make sure we're listening to our faith and that we're keeping that at the center of what we do.
So good. It's a guiding light for you, for lack of better words, but it's knowing what God is preferring, because it's really for your best and your boyfriend's best. And it's not so confusing. It's not an adult experience as you're only like 17 or 18, which is really hard to make sense. And there's so many consequences to going too far too soon. So I love that you guys really do rely on it to help you kind of make your decisions. And then looking at people on social media who are of your same mindset, like that is fantastic. Because I know there are a lot of incredible influencers who are reminding you, like, you are set apart. You don't have to follow what the world's telling you to still feel beautiful and desired and worth having a boyfriend, all that stuff. So good for you for trying to follow those people, because even adults need those people to look at to encourage us. So would you say, sticking on the social media topic, that it's actually hard to like enjoy social media, or to control social media so it doesn't control you? You know, what you're looking at, who you're following, because anything is on there, you know, so you could follow anything and go down a rabbit hole, but you have to be mindful. What's the social media relationship like for you girls in high school?
I think social media is really nuanced because obviously I think these other girls can relate. I think it's a way how we connect with our friends. I think it's important because, I mean, for me, for college roommates and stuff, like that's an aspect of social media that is part of the good. But I do think there is a lot of negative, and that's why I think the way you handle social media should be nuanced as well. Like for me, even though I turned 18, I asked my mom a couple weeks ago to reduce my screen time on Instagram, which I feel like is not. I know, it's kind of funny, but I really do try to
I
pay
love
attention to how. Thank you. I really do try and pay attention to how social media makes me feel. And I think that's almost uncommon because I think a lot of people turn to social media out of obligation or out of boredom and stay on it, even if it's making us feel worse. So I really tried to manage it the best I can. Like for me, Instagram, I honestly use it now for more of entertainment than even like a quote unquote social media. And I think that's honestly what gives me the most time and what makes me feel the best.
Good. Very smart. It's smart to have that habit now before you go off college and you have more time that you have to really manage and pay attention to. How about you guys, Ariana and Sophia?
I think for me, I personally am not on social media, which is kind of, I wouldn't say controversial, but I think it definitely has its downsides in a world where we're all interconnected and everyone's online. For me, I've seen it as like lack of connection, but I've also seen the beauties of it is I found that often people will be like, oh, what's your Snap or what's your Instagram? And then having a conversation like, oh, well, I'm actually not on this. And you kind of find the people that matter, because if they really matter, they'll ask for your number if they really care. It's not just you're just adding someone on Snap and forgetting about them the next day. I think has been kind of interesting for me, because I feel like if people ask for your number, they genuinely care. It's something that they want to have a connection and a relationship with. I do think it might be something that I will get in the future, especially like Drew was touching on with college roommates, is a lot of colleges are turning to that to match you with roommates, or it's kind of their means of communication.
Right.
I definitely think that's a bridge I'll definitely have to cross soon. But for now, I haven't been on it. And I think it's been nice to have it's kind of free to not have all the pressures in comparison. But I do think there have been several times where I felt a little disconnected and kind of out of the loop. But my best friend, she'll often, if it's that important, she'll tell me in person or show me this if it really is meaningful. Because I think most of the times, like Drew was saying, it's just mindless scrolling.
So was this a parent decision, or like all of you decided, or just you decided, like you had tried it and then got off of it? I'm just curious because there's different ways.
I wouldn't say it was parents. I think it was just, I don't know. I think it started off as like a parent thing, and then I think it kind of grew to my own thing. My parents were never really on social media. My mom is for her work, but my dad was and now is not. And so I kind of think I just grew up in a household where it wasn't really a big thing. So it didn't feel like what I had to do. I feel like initially my parents were against it, kind of with culture, and I just kind of grew something where I learned to live without it. So I never really felt the need. I think as I'm getting older and as I'm turning 18 and venturing into college, I do think it's becoming more of, I wouldn't say a necessity, but it's becoming more of a nicety and something that's kind of important when you're trying to pick roommates and other things like that. So I think definitely I soon might have to, I wouldn't say have to, but look into it and kind of start, or at least having like a base profile for other reasons. But I do think it was kind of an all-around decision. I think it started as parents, but kind of grew into me. is I don't often feel the necessity.
Got it. That's fantastic, by the way. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
I
Thank
personally
you.
think that's great. Ariana, how about you with social media? What are your thoughts about it? And is it easy, hard?
I feel like for me, the hardest part of social media is like it competing for my time, because I, like Drew, I sometimes will want to turn to like social media as like, I don't want to say comfort, but like kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of comfortable in a way where it's like you just like mindlessly scroll and like everything's curated that it's supposed to be your interest. So it's like very attractive to just want to stay on it and like forget other things. So I feel like having the separation of like, I've installed my own screen times on my phone. Do they work all the time? Not all the time. But it is a reminder that like tells me like, hey, this is how much time you've been spending on social media. So it makes me more like conscientious of like where I'm putting my time. And I think it's really important when following social media to just like remember like, yeah, it's like sometimes it's fun to have. I like getting to keep up with my friends' lives and just seeing that like connectedness of everyone, but also remembering that there's other things that I could be doing with my time and trying to find like purposeful ways to like incorporate it, but also know when it's time to leave.
So smart. You girls are so smart to be thinking about these things now. And I know you've had school or maybe RTwelve or church talking to you about this stuff, but like it really becomes, as you become independent, like you really do have to manage yourself with it. And it's hard because whether you use social media as inspiration, like you'll see when you're looking for jobs, like you'll start looking at companies and what's their social media and you can learn. And there's just so many different reasons why the world relies on it now. So it's a really serious topic of knowing how to manage your time. And like you said, Ariana, it's curated to what you like or how you shop or what businesses you're interested in or colleges or sports teams, like all of it. So you do have to manage it. So I love that you're already thinking like that. You're so ahead of the game. When you get into college, you're going to know, okay, this is still something I have to pay attention to, because you'll be studying, you'll have a lot of other activities to distract you, especially if it becomes like a relaxing thing. Like I look at Instagram reels because they're hilarious and they make me laugh. So sometimes I will purposely go into that so I can like check out and just start cracking up at like stupid things. So it's like entertainment, but I'm not really following anyone I know's lives. I'm just on there to like either see the news or laugh. So I'm kind of using it for what I want, but I can still be sucked in. So I love that you girls are mindful of that already. Like you're way ahead of the game. So good for you on that. And let's move into a new topic. I'm thinking now about academics and school. I mean, you're in high school, you're trying to get into college. Like it's not easy. You guys have it, I feel like, so much harder between working on your laptops all the time. AI is now a huge thing. So like that's a big deal with, sometimes your writing can be so good that they think it's AI and it's not. Like that's going to become a huge thing for you guys in college. So how do you manage all the pressures of academic, whether it's getting into college, keeping your grades up, AP, do I have to take AP, the testing, you can't look like you're cheating on AI. Like there's just so many layers to it. And now college is so challenging, I think, to get into, way more than any of your moms ever had to deal with. So tell me about academic pressure and how do you manage that? And remember, your identity is not just your grades.
I think what you were talking about, how college is so challenging, it's definitely been a bigger issue is I've seen throughout my high schools, especially my junior years, right before I started applying, is I was like, okay, how many more things can I add to make it look like I'm a stellar student? How many more AP classes can I take? How many more activities? And I think it was often really stressful. But my mom was telling me that what you're doing is enough. And if they don't accept you for what you've done and who you are, then maybe it's not the right fit, which is such truth to that, because I do think you're like, okay, I'm going to take 4 AP classes this year and 5 this year so I can have a 5.0 and I want a perfect SAT score. And I do think there is so much academic pressure out there. I myself try to hold myself to a really high academic standard. That's kind of where I've been. I wouldn't say I put my worth, but I put a lot of self-inflicted pressure on that. School has always kind of been my thing. And so I love learning and the pursuit of learning and having knowledge. I think it's recently been learning about myself and knowing, okay, maybe I know that this is not my strong suit and this is my strong suit. So I'm going to focus my attention on science and math classes and maybe not take an AP history. History is not my thing for me. And so I think learning your limits of where you can dial back and know that what you're doing is enough and you don't always need to keep adding this activity or adding this extracurricular just to do it. I think if you put your time in what's really beneficial and meaningful for you, for me, it's been putting my time into RTwelve, it's been putting my time into Bible study and putting my time into friends, I think has been really important for me in finding things that fill my cup instead of just another activity to look great on my resume or add another shining star.
Smart. Because that's a rat race. Oh, now I could do this, and now I could add this club, and then this service, and then it's really hard to know how much do I need to do and how much do I not. Drew, you're nodding a lot. Ariana, you are too. What do you want to add?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it does feel so much like a competition, and it shouldn't. And I think peeling back that layer of competition is really crucial. Like, sophomore year, I was taking honors algebra trigonometry, and by that name alone, I should not have been taking that class. Math is not my strong suit. So, I dropped into just a normal algebra 2 in the middle of the year, and it's like my life got 2 times easier because it's really just about playing to your strengths. And it is, we put on so many pressures that I don't even think God wants us to put on ourselves, like comparison or seeing our worth on our grades. And I honestly think that's really detrimental. So when we do focus on obviously working hard and trying our best, but when we do focus on that balance, I think that's where we find just the right amount of academic stress to push us to our best version of ourselves, but maintaining a high school experience and, kind of like Sophia said, time for other activities and friends and just fun things.
Yeah, so good. It's not a competition, that's for sure, and that takes a while to get to that because you're watching what your friends are doing. You know what? I mean, that's what everyone does. They get a test back and they're like, "What'd you get? What'd you get?" Right? So it's really hard to not look at, well, they're going to this college or they're applying here or they've got 4 APs. I only have 2, that kind of thing, or honors, all that stuff. Ariana, how about you,
Yeah,
honey?
I think my parent told me this like beginning of, or I don't know if it was beginning of high school or last year, but sometime between sophomore and junior year, they were like, if your work is like really like detrimental to you now and like it's like you're killing yourself to get these good grades, essentially, like putting so much pressure, and the goal is to go to this really prestigious school, when you get to that school, your life's just not going to become easier. Because if that's the way that you're working now, you're going to have to work harder once you get there. So I think like kind of what Drew and Sophia says, kind of knowing like that healthy balance of what you can do, but also something that will push you a little bit so you're growing, is something that's really tricky to figure out. And I feel like in high school, you don't really know until like you try it. So like what Drew said, like kind of lowering that class level, it's such a big difference. And then the same thing with extracurriculars. Like, yes, it looks great and you want to be a leadership role in everything you do, but knowing sometimes when it's like, okay, like I'd be like at my church, there's a girls group and I do it with 2 of my really close friends. And my 2 close friends go to like all the meetings. I go to most of them, but sometimes I have other extracurriculars that I have to like go to, so I can't make all of them. And this past year, they were asked to be the leaders of the group. And at first, I was like obviously very excited for them. I was like, this is so great. Like you guys really embody this group and you're going to take it to like the next level. But then also in the back of my mind, I was a little disappointed, like, oh, why couldn't I do it? I also really like this extracurricular. And it took me like some time to actually reflect and be like, Ariana, you do not have enough time to commit more to this. Like, you have to realize it's okay to step back. Like, you don't need to be the president of everything. Like, you have to know the limits and like, it's good and you still want to be involved in it, but you don't have to like do everything to the max. There can be some like adjustments there.
So do you feel like that took you guys like all until this year to get that? Like, because that's pretty mature and that's not something as a freshman you understand. So you feel like you're finally now kind of free of knowing how to pick and choose what things work for you and your schedule. Did that take till this year, or would you say you got there like mid sophomore year or junior year?
I would say for me, it was around sophomore year. Sophomore year is my hardest academically. And so moving into junior year, I kind of decided, okay, I'm not going to take this class instead. I'm going to take this one. I think that kind of led me, especially in the senior year of, I have a free period for my 7th period. And that has been the best thing, knowing that, yeah, I could take another AP class or I could have a break and enjoy it and enjoy my senior year. I think freshman and sophomore year were challenging academically. So knowing from that experience and moving into junior and senior year, I feel like I kind of lightened the load academically as much as I could while still keeping my honors in my AP classes. But just knowing, for me, it's a history thing. If everyone was taking AP history and I decided not to because I don't have time. Like Ariana was saying,
Right.
there's so many other classes and work and extracurriculars that I was already doing. And so I think it took me about 2.5 years. But once I got it, I feel like this year has been perfect of, I understand that like this makes sense. I'm glad I didn't take these classes because I have so much more
Yeah.
freedom to explore my interests.
So smart. So smart to play to your strengths too, to pay attention. I don't think a lot of even parents are maybe thinking about that when they're guiding their kids to when they sign up for classes. You know, they're thinking like, well, this many classes and your sport or whatever your extracurricular is would look good, or they're too worried maybe about you need this many APs in order to get into this kind of school. And that stress is just not necessary, you know, because you want to play to your strengths and you want to do well and have rigor, but also not be so stressed. Was it you, Sophia, that said just like the stress of it? And Drew, maybe you mentioned it too. Like there's just this unnecessary stress that you realize as you get older. I don't need to have that crazy amount of stress. Like some is good to work hard. Were you going to add something, Drew?
Yeah, I know. I was just really agreeing with what you were saying. I think for me, when I dropped that class sophomore year, I think that's when I shed that weight of expectation and comparison. And that was really nice for me. I mean, the truth is, AP classes and every commitment we take on, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off for our time. It's a trade-off for our stress and attention. And my mom, kind of like Ariana, how she told you, my mom was like, Drew, life doesn't get much easier than this. So I really think you want to balance your time and you want to enjoy yourself. It's not fair to yourself to take away time from your other commitments or even just enjoyment time for unnecessary classes or achievements, mostly that are for your ego, really.
So interesting. Yeah, working yourselves to death, basically, and starting that as a teen. If you don't learn that balance, then it's in college going to be really hard too. And then you'll just continue that in your work life. You want to be driven. I mean, there's a difference between being driven and motivated to succeed and you're hungry for it. That's what all of us want as parents, is we want you to find something you're passionate about and go for it and do well and be able to be a good citizen, pay your bills, but also have a balance. And Drew, I think you're the one that said Christ wouldn't necessarily want you to be so stressed that you can't feel like a break, the joy. Like you said, Sophia, I have a break in the day and I actually can relax a little. Like that's beneficial to the other areas you're pressing so hard in. You have to try to find that balance. You girls are so ahead of the game of paying attention to all that. Really. I mean, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. And I know a lot of the adults listening to this today are going to be like, wow, we wish we were like you guys. I'm sure they're all thinking that. So a couple more questions. What would you guys tell a freshman? And you probably said this. What do you wish a freshman knew when they're coming into high school that you know now?
One thing we said at the panel, and Drew kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think my biggest piece of advice is like life, especially in high school, is serious, but it's not that serious. Like you don't need to feel like your life, like your world is crashing down because of one small thing. Like I was driving in a car with my sister's friends to their first homecoming pictures, and I think one of the girls like accidentally posted like a picture to Instagram from when they were hanging out, and the other girls were like, "Oh, I thought that was just like normal. Like I thought you were just doing that." And she was like totally freaking out. And I was like, I totally can remember being in that position and being like, "Oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? Like this is a whole thing now. How am I gonna fix this?" When it's like in reality, everyone's kind of going their own ways, that like the stuff you do does have an effect on people, but it's like it's not that serious, and it's not something that's like life altering right now that's gonna like destroy anything in the future. So I think really learning to just like take things in stride and like really find that confidence in yourself that like, hey, like everything I'm doing is like fine. Like if I want to go to the football game, it's fine. If I want to stay home and I'd rather watch Dancing with the Stars, that's also like completely fine. Like no one's going to be like, "Oh, she's antisocial because she's not at the football game," like kind of finding that balance and really allowing you to like be you.
Really well said, honey. Thank you for that. Sophia or Drew?
I think for me, I would always tell the freshmen, and I've been talking to a decent amount of freshmen this year, is to get involved. Everyone says that, your mom says that, your dad says that, your friend says that. But I really do believe it is, especially as a freshman, everyone's new. So for me, I was going to a private school. I only knew 2 people going in, which kind of was a little scary, but I also think it was nice for a fresh start. And there wasn't necessarily like a feeder school for my high school. Everyone kind of came from other public and private middle schools. And I kind of was under the impression that everyone was new, and the feelings of like, oh, I'm nervous to do this. Like, I don't know, like, I'm nervous to go ask this person to sit with them. I think I had to remind myself, like, everyone's new, and the more involved you can be, the easier it is for you. I started playing volleyball my freshman year, and being involved with the volleyball team really helped me because I had an entire team of friends that I would see, say hi in the hallway, and going to football games. You have that school spirit. You're in the student section. You're meeting all these people, joining clubs, and just kind of connecting with the people around you, but also knowing that you're not the only new person. No one's really judging you. No one's going to make fun of you because you're all new and you're all kind of starting this together.
Yeah, great input. And I would say carry that into college. Get involved in different things. Try different things. That will really help you realize you're not alone, because it's most likely there'll be big schools bigger than your high schools probably. Drew, how about you, honey?
I mean, yeah, I'm just going to echo something similar to the girls said, but I think for me, freshman year, I was so worried what people thought of me. And I remember when an RTwelve speaker, she said these exact words. She said, the right ones won't care, and if they care, they're not the right ones. And like my brain exploded. It was really cool. And that's something I really have carried with me. Obviously, I think that comes with getting older and becoming a senior. But it is really debilitating just worrying what everyone thinks of you. But it's like people have different opinions sometimes out of they see you on a bad day, or sometimes that's their insecurity and they don't like you because of that. It's not fair to alter yourself to please everybody. And that's not how the world works. Not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. And I think also as I've gotten older, I've realized the relationship between not judging other people and then not feeling judged myself. It's obviously something I have to work on still, and I bet these other girls would say the same. But it is just so liberating to just be like, everyone's coexisting and everyone's trying their best. And I see that in other people, and I know other people see that in me. And I think learning that and shedding that insecurity has been like huge for me in my life.
Really well said. And that comes with maturity. You guys are older now, and your brains, everything is maturing and developing. But that's a lifelong thing that human beings have to work on, is to just be okay in their own skin and not compare and not worry about every little thing, and give grace to yourself and to your friends. Like you said, it could be a good day or a bad day and the way people look at you. So you're all on the right track of like looking at life in a reasonable kind of grace-giving way. I'm so proud of each of you. Hardest thing in high school for each of you? What's the hardest thing that you've experienced in high school. And I don't want you to feel like you have to go into anything that's maybe too painful or too raw or real for the podcast. But if you can find something that really has been the biggest challenge, I'm sure there's another student out there who could relate to that.
I think starting freshman year was difficult for me specifically. I mean, just what's coming up at the top of my head is my sister went to college. My freshman year and her freshman year aligned because we're 4 years apart in school. And I think that was really difficult for me is not only feeling like I was going through high school, I don't want to say alone, but kind of as only student in the house, but also kind of not mourning our relationship, but mourning our relationship of sleeping in rooms next to each other every night. And I know that was really hard for me, and that was something I carried throughout freshman year, and honestly moving forward, it was something that I definitely learned to adapt to.
Mhm.
But I feel like I've come to a really good resolution with that.
That's great. Yeah, it's a little lonely, I would say, if you're used to having siblings in the house and then they're gone. I went through that too. How about you, Sophia or Ariana?
I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about friends, but that was definitely the hardest thing in high school for me. Was junior year, I went down from a group. I started freshman year at a group of 7. By sophomore year, it was 4. Then it went to 5, and now it's kind of 2. It's just kind of me and my best friend. I think that was the hardest because it was kind of took a couple months. Our group just kind of distanced apart, and there were a good amount of fights and kind of toxicity. I kind of knew throughout that it probably wasn't the best friend group, but my human nature was like, oh, but I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be lonely. I still crave connection and crave a group of people who I thought at the time really cared about me. I would definitely say that's the hardest, is especially going to senior year. I put a lot of pressure of like trying to have this big friend group that hangs out every weekend and be not necessarily the populars, but have a good group who is fun and exciting and entertaining. But one thing I did learn through it is that it's okay to kind of just have a small friend group. I've seen the value of it. It's a lot more freeing, and I know that my best friend truly does care about me, and we're not all just putting up a front to seem happy and seem like we love our big group. But I definitely do think a lot of high schoolers are going to go through it, and it is kind of necessary to weed out the people in your life who aren't there to build you up. I would say that was the hardest thing for high school of me, of kind of figuring out who my identity was with a big group, with a small group, and kind of who I'm meant to be, which kind of sounds daunting, but it was definitely the hardest thing of going through. Kind of a friend thinning, as I'll call it.
Yeah, you're finding out who you are in comparison to the larger group and which are your people, and being okay with, I don't have to be the loudest voice in the room with all the kids. I can have my smaller group. That takes time for all teens, I think, for sure. How about you, Ariana? What's been the hardest thing for you?
I think for me, it's just been like learning to balance everything. I feel like going from middle school to high school, the intensity level definitely goes up. Like, you start doing a sport and you're devoting a lot of time to that. Your classes are becoming harder, and like now you need to study for things. And then plus you have friends, trying to keep friends, find new friends. So like, I think navigating through all that took a lot of time, and definitely has taken me up to senior year, and still probably not even completely perfect in all of those items. But like, just trying to like juggle everything and give my best and as many things as I can has been really like the most challenging part of high school.
Interesting. It sounds like that you like to do a lot and you like to work hard and be involved. So it will be hard for you to learn that for your temperament. What are the things for sure I want to do, and what can I say no to and be okay with that? So I want to ask you guys a question about college before we start to wrap up. What's the main thing you guys are either worried about or curious about as you start to think ahead to go away to school? Is there one thought that makes you curious, like who's my roommate going to be, or will the classes be hard, or how will I make friends, or what will it be like to not live at home? Any of that stuff.
Okay. I think for me, one thing I'm kind of worried about is moving to a new place, I know that I kind of want my own adventure, and I've been applying to schools that are not close. They're kind of far and kind of across the country. And so I've had my sights set on like this new experience, but I do think that is a little something I'm worried about, is not having the comfort of home and the people of home. I've kind of, going through my friendship issues, have set my sights on like, okay, college is where I'm going to find my best friends, which I think I have been putting a good amount of pressure on, which is not the best thing. But I think I am a little nervous about the starting over, because it's going to be a new adjustment. It's going to be new people, lots of new friends. And I think finding my kind of place within the college campus and finding my community is something that I'm not only worried, but definitely curious about. I like how you said that. It's going to be a new experience. It's going to be exciting. Lots of ups, lots of downs, and I'm just ready for the ride.
Yes, for sure. Okay, Ariana, what are you most curious about or worried about going to college?
I think for me, it's like really like what Sophia said, being away from home for the first time, like having all the stuff in high school, like when I've been stressed or when I've had friend issues, like I've really turned heavily towards my parents and like look at their advice. And I'm like, how is it going to be when like a year from now, I'm going to be by myself in a dorm room with someone that I don't even know yet, most likely. And like, I can still turn to my parents on like a phone call and stuff, but it doesn't feel as like it's quite the same. So it feels like more of like placing more responsibility on myself. And I feel like that part is scary, but it's also exciting because it's like I am growing up, and with that comes a lot of responsibilities, but then there's also a lot of new opportunities and new things that I will be in control of in my own life. So
For sure.
double-edged,
You will be ready for it.
it's a double-edged sword for sure.
It's so true. You're so right, honey. But you will be ready for it when you're there. Like you'll find your way with that. And you can always call your mom and dad and FaceTime them, and depending on where you go, they'll come out for a parent weekend, in the fall, and then it'll be Thanksgiving, and then it'll be Christmas. So there's a gentle onboarding with your freshman year, especially, and you'll be so happy to come home and see your friends. And then with each year, you get more confident and more independent, and it just gets easier and easier. So I understand that kind of worry. Oh, good. Here comes Drew. She's signing back on again, or trying to anyway. Hopefully her Wi-Fi will join us. Okay, so as we're waiting for her, let me just check and see if I got a text or anything from her. No, okay. As we're waiting for her, as we wrap it up, what do you wish other teens knew when it comes to their faith, and specifically knowing Christ? So this would be the comment to somebody who kind of curious about Jesus, doesn't really know much maybe about the Christian faith. They want to know, or maybe they don't even know they should know or should want to know. What would you like to tell them, somebody brand new, and just say, why you follow him?
I feel like as a teenager, I've been very fortunate to have amazing life group leaders and mentors who have kind of guided me along the way through high school. And I remember I want to say it was my sophomore year, one of my leaders, we were talking about kind of balancing everything and how I was very stressed and overwhelmed. And I remember she told me, she said, God is more concerned with your godliness than your giftedness. And I think that really struck me, is because a lot of people, especially new believers or maybe people who don't follow the faith, kind of see Christianity as sometimes a checkbox of, I have to go to church, I have to read my Bible, I have to pray every day, I have to be involved in these Bible studies, or I have to go to women's group or men's group. And I think that really struck me of like, it doesn't matter how many things you're doing, because there's, like we talked about earlier, there's always going to be more that you can do. I think for me, it's more concerned about your intent and your actions and your godliness than how many things you do, because you should not be putting your worth in other things. You should be putting your worth in God, and that's ultimately your identity. And I think that for me, it just really struck me of, that's what I need to be doing. Is it doesn't matter how many extracurriculars I can add. It's about looking inward and focusing on my relationship with Christ, because that's ultimately what's going to get me to heaven at the end of the day.
I love that. That is so good that God's more concerned with your godliness versus your giftedness. It's not about your checklist of all you're doing to be worthy. It's about knowing who you are in Him. It's about doing right because of what He wants you to do in terms of the way you think about things, the way your heart posture is towards things, how you treat human beings. I love that. He's more concerned with your godliness than your giftedness. So good, Sophia. So, Ariana, what would you say on why you'd want some teenager who maybe doesn't know Jesus what would you answer that question to get to know him? Why should
I think
they?
obviously this world is so big and there's so many things that like everything's being thrown at you at once. And for me, faith is really something that's like, it's amazing to have like a guide and an example, something to follow. It really like gives you a perspective, and I feel like that helps ground you. And it's a sense of peace in knowing that like there are things like we have free will and there's stuff that God does trust us to control, but knowing that He overall has that control over our lives is just such like a sense of peace that I feel like those without faith may not experience. And when you do experience it, it's like this whole new world, and it's like there's so many more opportunities now because at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay because I'm following an example of how to live a good life. And I think that's like the biggest thing for me with faith is having that guide and that sense of peace.
Beautiful. So beautiful. I love that response. He does provide a peace. And that was one of the things, he said to his disciples is, my peace I leave with you, not as the world gives you peace, but as I give you peace. It still looks totally different, right? Looks totally different. So that was beautifully said. Drew, what would you want a teenager to know if they don't know Christ, or even if they're curious and would like to? Why do you follow him?
I think I follow him. At times it isn't the easiest, and I bet we can all relate to that in our own lives. But I honestly feel like it's the truth, and I feel like it's the truth that's worth pursuing. I think this world is obviously so crazy and so chaotic, but kind of like Ariana was saying, the Lord provides so much peace and so much tangible peace that I've seen in my own life. And even though the relationship is tricky and it's difficult and faith is something that's hard to pursue, I do think a life with the Lord is easier, and it's of higher caliber, it's of greater substance than one without it. I think we are made to be in relationship with the Lord, and I feel like everyone who doesn't live in relationship with the Lord feels that sense of longing, and I think that's really the only way to fill it.
Really wise. And that's true. A lot of people, you'll see when you go to college, girls, a lot of people are searching for the next fun, the next this, the next that's going to make me feel better, look better, like myself, to a new level. And they'll fill it with all kinds of things. It could be grades, it could be drugs, it could be drinking, it could be dating, it could be a new religion, it could be a new philosophy. Doesn't matter, stuff, shopping. But he really is the only thing that sustains all of that. Like his peace, who he says you are, will fill that ache in your heart that you'll see the world really looking for. So I'm just so proud of you guys. And just know that faith is wonky, girls. Like, it's not like an easy black or white thing. Like, it's hard to follow him. I think you girls are doing a phenomenal job. You're about to jump off and go into college and be around all kinds of ideas and all kinds of people. And my prayer for you is that when life does get confusing and tricky or maybe painful and there's suffering, that you lean into him and you look to him deeper rather than going the other way, because it's hard to make sense of suffering and hard things. And you might go through some really hard things. None of us get out of this life without, very hard things. My challenge and my encouragement to you is to keep moving towards him, not away, no matter who's telling you to look elsewhere. So, but you have said so many wise things today. I truly believe you are so well equipped to go out into the world. I think your parents have been a phenomenal support for you. I think each of you critically thinks and has been analyzing and looking at the world now that you're 17, 18 and getting ready to launch. I think RTwelve has probably helped you in some ways, seeing the different speakers that have come through and listening to the other issues the girls have at other schools, your student mentors. Like, Christianity is not, like you said, Drew, it's not easy. It's actually a hard way to look at the world and make sense of it, but it's the lasting, peaceful way. And I'm very proud of you. So thank you for being on the show. The last question as I wrap, I told you before, is who do you wish knew that even for them, no matter their doubt, no matter their sin, no matter their anger, whatever, that they understood there's room at the Lord's table even for them and they are welcome? Who do you wish knew that?
Someone I wish that knew that there's room for them at the table is my old best friend, who we unfortunately parted ways through my friend group, but she has kind of now fallen down a path of the world. And I just really wish for her to know that even though her actions may not be aligning with God's plan for her, that there is ultimately room for her at the table. And if she does hopefully one day make her way back to Christ, that he will be there waiting for her with open arms, and that no matter how far down of a path she's gone, that there's always room for her at the table.
So beautiful. So beautiful. That's my prayer for your friend too, honey. Drew and Ariana?
Yeah, I think I really want people who have doubts about Christianity and about Jesus know that Jesus still welcomes them and welcomes them to their table. I think to a degree, I think God wants us to ask difficult questions, and I think he wants us to be curious and really think for ourselves. And I want people to know that that's honestly pretty normal, and I think God welcomes that.
Yep. Very normal. We wouldn't be human if we weren't doubting and wondering and curious and striving and trying to figure it out. So he can handle all that. I love it. How about you, Ariana, to wrap us up?
I think for me, I hope that all the people that are intimidated by faith and think like, oh, there's so many things in my life that I don't know if I'm worthy to be able to follow this faith, or like it's too much of a time commitment, or it's too large for me to handle right now. I hope that they know that there's room at the table, and it really can just be like a simple start. Like, it doesn't need to be like all in or nothing, like there's ways to be introduced to the faith where it's not as intimidating, and it can be something that does make your life easier. And so I think I wish more people knew that that step is easier than they make it to take.
Yeah. Really well said. Baby steps. Just take baby steps. Just one step, and then you take the next one, and then you take the next one. So, gosh, girls, you've really encouraged me and affirmed that our youth is so smart and so hungry and so aware. You girls are just very aware, and my heart is overflowing with just gratitude for you being willing to take the time to sit with me, not a peer, but a mom of your peers, basically. And so thank you for being on here. I know that the Lord's going to use this to really bless people, whether they're teens or parents or grandparents. Like, this is a really cool conversation to have with you. So thanks for taking the time. And just know that I'll be praying for you, the three of you. I'll be rooting for you. I might have to send you a text and check in and say, where'd you end up going to school? And when this comes out, I'm going to go ahead and send all the links to you. But thank you for being here. God bless you guys. You're truly inspiring and amazing young women. And I'm just super proud of each one of you.
Thank you so much for having us on. It was an absolute pleasure to be able to sit and talk with you.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Drew. Thanks, Ariana.
Thanks for listening to Room at the Table with Kimberly Milo, friends. If you're enjoying the show, please like, follow, rate, star, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. This all helps grow the show and helps listeners find us. Be sure to share it with a friend also. And if you know of a Christian with an amazing testimony or ministry, or maybe as a Bible teacher or author, feel free to direct message me on social media at Room at the Table with Kimberly Milo. Or you can email me at roomatthetableforyou@gmail.com. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you next time on Room at the Table. And remember, God loves you, and so do I.